Hi everyone, Marco here for our 47th and brand new episode of our special edition Lore of the Universal Century. Today, we're going back again to the One-Year War era in an attempt to answer a particular question, which is... Yep, in this video we're going to explore the history of the light gun cannon, its mechanical lore, variants, and extract every bit of mechanical knowledge we have on them so far. But let's start by the beginning. What is exactly the Gem Cannon? Labeled as RGC-80, the Gem Cannon, formerly referred as Gem Cannon Prototype Type, was a mass production mid-range artillery mobile suit, developed by the Earth Federation forces in the later stages of the One-Year War. A suit created as an extension of the original Gem series and byproduct of the failed attempt at mass-producing the gun cannon, the Gem Cannon was a suit designed to spread the use of support mobile suits in the newly formed mobile suit battalions of the Federation forces, covering its squad mates with long or mid-range artillery fire. To fulfill such role, the Gem Cannon was outfitted with a new kind of artillery equipment, a 240mm high-velocity rocket cannon mounted on a notched port placed on its right shoulder. This single rocket cannon was of the same type than the shoulder cannons used by the original gun cannon, yet exchanged the original manual reloading system, which took into account the gun cannon high internal ammunition storage, for a simple magazine feeder. Because of this adjustment, the Gem Cannon's rocket cannon was also not outfitted with the gun cannon's water-cooled jacket system, which supported machine gun-like rapid fire for the cannons and which was adequate only for suits with high internal ammo reserves, which the Gem Cannon was not due to the magazine feeder system. The upside was that the switch to a magazine system enabled the Gem Cannon to continue firing as long as it had spare cartridges, something that combined with its lower rate of fire enabled it to remain active and relevant on the battlefield for a longer amount of time than most gun cannons, which, more often than not, would quickly be left without ammo after spamming the machine gun firing rate of their cannons, courtesy of the water jackets. For most people, that was essentially anything that mattered about the Gem Cannon, with the rest of its features being identical to the vanilla Gem and not relevant to explore. Now, this is not exactly true, with the Gem Cannon being a bit more complex than just a Gem slapped with a rocket cannon. Indeed, the Gem Cannon was heavily reliant on the original design and shapes of the RGM-79, the vanilla Gem, with both models sharing the same semi-monocoque structure and around 60% of their internal parts and armor components, numbers which are quite high, but not as high as one would expect. The legs of the original Gem, considered too brittle to withstand the recoil of the 240mm cannons while fighting on the ground, were reinforced with additional layers of armor, giving them overall shapes emulating the more adequate leg design featured in the gun cannon. In a similar fashion, the feet were also slightly reinforced, which resulted in the Gem Cannon being not only able to withstand the weight and mass balancing of its artillery assets, but also being able to maintain enough stability and stabilize its posture to accurately fire, making it a reliable artillery asset. With these few intelligent tweaks over the Gem design, the Gem Cannon would faithfully serve as a support model inside the Federation army, serving as a core component of the Earth Federation ground forces during the final push operations to drive the Zeon Earth Attack Force out of Earth. Unfortunately, because of its more ground-oriented design, the Gem Cannon's production was eventually halted as the Gravity Front concluded, with some of the few remaining units being kept on Earth for mop-up operations or to world locations, while some others were pushed to space as part of Operation Star 1. Those space Gem Cannons would be fielded without much convictions, with the general stance of the Federation top brass already expecting them to be less helpful than during their days on the ground front. Nonetheless, the surviving Gem Cannons would continue fighting for the rest of the war, spawning some variants left and right, and leaving quite a legacy for all following Gem lines to more or less adopt, with some Gem Cannons being still on active duty in the days of the Grips War, almost 8 years after their creation. But that's enough setting for today, let's get to our lore. The year is Universal Century 79, and the One-Year War was finally entering its decisive stages. After holding out for nearly 9 months with almost no mobile suits of their own, the Earth Federation forces had finally moved towards their own large-scale mobile suit production, with the V project, accidentally uncovered by Charles Aznavour in Side 7, heralding the Federation new days of mobile suit development through its 3-star prototypes, the RX-75 gun tank, RX-77 gun cannon, and of course, RX-78 Gundam. The appearance of these 3 special high-performance units in September UC-79, together and all headquartered in the infamously known White Base, was of significant importance for the Federation forces, hinting them that the V project had finally bore its fruits and was mature enough to be considered a viable base for mass production. Of course, the Federation had already fielded some mobile suits before September, such as the Gun Tank Early Type in May, Jim Early Type in July, or Gundam Ground Type in August, but all these suits were either retrofitted prototypes rushed to the battlefront, either provisional models made with leftover parts from the V project, far away from the high degree of completion featured in the 3 prototypes of the gun trio. Thus, as soon as the Federation was able to get its hands back on the V project battle data through the White Base intermediary, a mass production plan for all 3 RX models was immediately engaged, attempting to limit produce or mass produce with few tweaks the best assets displayed by these 3 units. Of all 3 suits, the gun tank was the one that was mass produced the best, with the gun tank mass production type, albeit far less versatile than its mother suit the RX-75-4, being a decent replica of the gun tank assets, being later deployed in many of the Gravity fronts. As expected, the Gundam was the one that would prove to be the most difficult to replicate, and after a botched run of limited production units, the RG-79AV, the idea of a lower spec but cheaper and reliable model, the RGM-79 Jim, was eventually approved as a mainstay, bastardizing some of the Gundam features with preliminary mobile suit plans that predated the RX-78. In the middle of these 2 opposites, the gun cannon was in a sort of in-between situation, with the model being approved for limited production as it was for a decent run of units, but nonetheless not mass-produced, mainly due to its costly design and low productivity, induced by its experimental features such as the core block system. Nonetheless, the Federation was still very much interested in mass-producing the gun cannon assets, and thus immediately drew plans to create a lower cost and more malleable artillery unit, starting a new development project inside the Jaburo facility, HQ of the Federation forces. In an early stage of this new development project, the Federation engineers initially planned to drastically tweak the gun cannon in order to get their related mass production model, thus making the original Jim cannon plan a separate department inside the Federation R&D project and related to the Jim development plan that was being carried out in parallel in the Jaburo facility. Unfortunately, productivity issues and wartime demands eventually forced the project to speed up the designing phase, which resulted in a decision to affiliate the project to the Jim mass production plan effort, and thus conceptualize the new mass production artillery support model as a tweaked variation of the Jim, but now equipping gun cannon grade assets on top of its Jim frame. This new crude development idea, forced by wartime constraints, eventually bore its first fruits around early October UC-79 in the form of a first prototype referred as the RGC-81, also named Prototype Jim Cannon. A modified variation of the Jim, the Prototype Jim Cannon was an unrefined attempt at rushing development, replacing the Jim head with a regular gun cannon head, backpack, but more notably adopting a set of 360mm gun cannon type cannons on both its shoulders, weapons of a larger caliber than the gun cannon original cannons. More interestingly, the Proto Jim cannon also introduced a lower spec version of the core block system, which core was unable to transform into a core fighter, but instead enabled any regular Jim lower body to be quickly retrofitted into a Proto Jim cannon anywhere, anytime, with the core block serving as a sort of clipper for the upper body and the cannon, which were planned to be the only new original parts that would be needed to be manufactured. The idea they had is a bit unclear, but it seems the plan was to enable any Jim to be quickly converted into a Jim cannon if need be, with the upper torso being removed and the core block enabling the quick installment of the cannon upper body, thus removing the need to have a dedicated artillery support variant for the GIM. In any case, this first prototype, labeled as the Type 0, was then deployed to South America for fire testing, a testing phase which eventually revealed numerous flaws in this early design. First of all, the 360mm cannons caused absurd recoil issues to the mobile suit. Recoil its original GIM leg could absolutely not withstand and led to poor weight balance and stability, in turn hindering its accuracy while firing. Now, prior to its deployment, the Type 0 had already been modified into a type called the Type 1, which only added gun cannon forearms for more stability, an early modification which was sadly not enough to fix the drastic flaw the proto-GIM cannon suffered. This setback was however not enough to deter the project engineers, who in a mere period of 5 days were able to find ways to fix the recoil problem. The engineers were indeed able to modify the Type 1 into a new variation called the Type 2, which introduced reinforcement armoring to the legs and feet, closer to the one featured in the original gun cannon design. In addition to that, the original exhaust vents were swapped for a newer variation, supposedly to better withstand the pressure exerted by the cannon's recoil. These improvements, carried out in the final design, finally fixed the recoil-related issues of the GIM cannon, but came at the cost of the original idea of conversion through core block between GIM and GIM cannon, with the engineers sacrificing the idea for the sake of completing the project in time. For a brief period of time, it seemed the Type 2 would be the design approved for mass production, with the RGC-80 model being approved by HQ authorities around that time. Strangely enough, the Type 2 was eventually disfavored by its very own development team, which eventually decided to modify it into a new form referred as the Type 3. Almost identical to the Type 2, the Type 3 only difference with its earlier form was its new artillery loadout, sacrificing the twin 360mm cannons for a 240mm unique cannon, a weapon with a lower caliber of ammunition, so less punching power, but a longer barrel for longer firing range. The Type 3 was eventually the one that got mass produced, but not before switching its head back to a regular GIM head for the sake of productivity and to reduce costs. The GIM cannon's design was thus finalized and eventually put to limited production, with an initial run of 48 units being approved, with some other sources stating it was later followed by a 10 units additional run, bringing the total production to 58 units. These 58 units would then be divided between the Earth Federation Ground Forces and the Earth Federation Space Forces, although by no means in equal proportions, with the Ground Forces receiving 44 machines, while the Space Forces only 14. The reasons behind this unfair division are actually not fleshed out, but can be understood by the fact that the Gravity Front was still the main front line at the time of the GIM cannon completion, and thus needed to be prioritized compared to the Space front line, with Operation Star One becoming a reality only after the victory at the Battle of Odessa in November UC-79. The other reason is that the Federation General HQ never really expected much of the GIM cannon's performance in space, with its design making it an excellent ground asset that would be more useful to deploy on Earth, notably to the physical 240mm bombarding cannon. Of the 44 units kept on Earth, the first produced 6 units were deployed on the North American front, while 19 were instead sent to Africa, 3 to the Australian front, while 9 units were finally kept in Jaburo for defense purposes. The whereabouts about the 7 remaining ground units is unknown, but it's likely they were either kept as reserve units or disassembled for spare parts to enable their other sibling units to continue functioning. These GIM cannons would perform admirably during the later stages of the Gravity Front, playing vital roles in the recapture of the California base in North America, the liberation of the Australian front through their use by the White Dingo Squad, but also serve as the temporary riding seat of Leader Wolf, ace pilot of the African front. The GIM cannon was notably well appreciated by pilots who transitioned from Type 61 main battle tank duties to mobile suit piloting, enabling them to remain relevant as tankers through the use of the artillery 240mm cannon. Let's look back at their siblings in space. As we said before, the Space Force also received a meager complement of GM cannons for their own use, with merely 14 units divided between the Tian'Em and Rebel fleets. Although some claims the Tian'Em fleet received most of these GM cannons, it is known about the more interesting fate that befell the ones of the Rebel fleet, which were all modified and enhanced to better perform in space warfare. This new space model created at the dawn of Operation Star One is the one codenamed RGC-80S, also referred as the GM Cannon Space Assault Type or simply GM Cannon Space Type. An adaptation of the GM Cannon for its new assignment to the space campaign, the Space Assault Type was a machine that didn't drastically depart from the regular GM Cannon, instead taking into account the new needs of a space machine, while removing or adapting the numerous design restrictions once placed upon the GM Cannon inherited by its design, originally meant for 1G combat. First of all, the bulky reinforced armored legs intended to support the recoil of the cannon, accentuated by gravity and now useless in 0G, were phased out in favor of a skinnier but more refined set of legs inherited from the GM Intercept custom, removing unnecessary weight while drastically improving embat capabilities while giving more mobility, an additional set of verniers. In the same vein, the old backpack was replaced with a version using verniers from the Intercept custom, thus making the new GM Cannon lighter, faster, and less sluggish than its first iteration. Weaponry-wise, the GM Cannon Space Assault Type also took into account the few recoil problems it now had to face, replacing the 240mm shoulder cannon with a 360mm variant, and using it in conjunction with a new 380mm Balzac type bazooka, an optional but rarely used weapon of the GM series. On Earth, such a pairing would have been too much of a strain for the GM Cannon, but in the vacuum of space, it was now a powerful combination in the hands of the GM Cannon Space Assault Type. In terms of production, it is said that around 5 or 6 GM Cannons, the entire effective of the Rebel Fleet GM Cannons, were refitted and modified into Space Assault Types. These units were divided between the 142 Mobile Sub-Team, an escort team tasked to protect General Rebel flagship, in which painted their GM Cannons in blue colors, and the 317 Mobile Sub-Team, which instead painted theirs in red colors. Unfortunately, both teams would suffer greatly during the Solar Ray incident, where they, alongside most of the Rebel fleet, were vaporized by Zion's Solar Ray before even arriving on the front line. However, it seems that one of these GM Cannons, presumably from the 317, unlike what I said in a previous video, survived the incident and went on to fight during the Battle of Abawaku, presumably being destroyed as no record exists of it after the war. But let's make a detour for another unconventional relative, this time on Earth. Following the success of the GM Cannon series, plans were approved for the re-implementation of the original gun cannon's mass production. Plans that quickly matured into tangible concepts around very late November UC-79. At the time these concepts saw the light of the day, the second generation of GMs, heralded by the GM Command, was on the verge of completion, which led to the planned Eric 77D gun cannon mass production type being eventually designed and limited produced as an integral part of the GM Command series. However, before the gun cannon mass production type was completed, a test unit closer to the original GM Cannon's design was manufactured for testing purposes and assigned to the Guinea Pig Testing Corps. This test unit, the RGC-79G GM Command Cannon, was merely a modified GM Command Colony type, with the addition of the 240mm cannon of the GM Cannon and a new crotch armored piece. This new armored piece is unsurprisingly shared with the gun cannon mass production type, and seems to have been implemented in the experimental unit as part of a test trial to see how it would handle stability and recoil issues with at least a single cannon. As such, the GM Command Cannon with Samara Furis at its helm would provide support for the rest of the Guinea Pig's corps, as well as pave the way for the gun cannon mass production completion through the data it collected. Now that the one-year war units are covered, let's now discuss about the successors of the post-war era. As we said before, the GM Cannon's production was eventually put to halt before the war's end, being sadly not renewed due to the war's ending and a nominal decrease in fighting. Despite this choice, the role of GM Cannons and gun cannons, now unneeded artillery platforms but also extremely successful support machines, was definitely acknowledged by the federal military, with a second generation of Jim cannons being commissioned as the early UC-80s started. This second generation of Jim cannons, conceptualized during the post-war years, was eventually commissioned as part of the Federation reconstruction effort, a large-scale revamping effort from the federal military to develop adequate successors to its now aging grunt units of the Jim series. Codenamed RGC-83, the response to this request was the mobile suit known as the Jim Cannon II, a high-tech mass production machine worthy of the title of Culmination of Support Mobile Suits. A machine developed by the Augusta Labs in tandem to the Jim Custom, the Jim Cannon II was actually more than just another support mobile suit, being more of a technological marvel in its own right, outside of course in brute performance. A highly polished mobile suit created from data of both the Jim Cannon 1 and mass production type gun cannon, the Jim Cannon 2 was indeed designed following the philosophy of mass producing the gun cannon rather than continuing the vanilla Jim Cannon, albeit with an emphasis being put on compatibility and cooperation with other Jim types, notably the Jim Custom. This will to follow the gun cannon is actually the reason behind the changes of the artillery features in the Jim Cannon 2, with the use of a single cannon being reverted to a dual pair of back-mounted versions, similarly to the gun cannons. However, the Jim Cannon 2 took into account the lesson learned during the One-Year War, and instead of retaining the bullet-type physical cannons of its predecessors, instead adopted a beam-based variant, a trend started since the Gun Cannon 2. This pair of beam cannons, albeit less useful for carpet bombing and strategic shelling, were however far deadlier and useful as mid-range assets, giving the Jim Cannon precise and destructive power from which to draw to support its allies. Even better, shared technologies with other Jim types, now available on a large scale, enable the Jim Cannon to power these cannons to high outputs, and power them either through the generator directly or energy caps if need be. In parallel to that, like the Jim Custom, the Jim Cannon 2 was also partially a sort of mass production version of the Gundam NT1 Alex, sharing a certain number of electronic technologies and parts while retaining some of its unique technologies. Among these retained unique technologies was notably the Choban armor, a composite armor with reactive layers protecting the upper and lower torso of the Jim Cannon 2, and also introduced in the Gundam Alex in a purgeable form, although it was now a fixed equipment in the new Jim Cannon iteration. This new armor ensured the Jim Cannon would beneficiate from sufficient defensive abilities to be able to tank multiple physical attacks, while adding a pair of stabilizing waist gear to increase accuracy and stability to counterbalance the added weight. The combination of all these things made the Jim Cannon 2 an excellent, albeit a bit costly, support mass production machine, successful enough to outcompete its only rival machine at the time, the mass production Gun Cannon 2, winning over the place as the next support mass production machine for the Federation forces. Following this victory, the Jim Cannon 2 was eventually put to mass production, although it seems it only ever reached limited production due to the events unfolded in the final month of UC-83. As the Titans rose to power, rights over the Augusta Jim series, involving the Jim Custom and Jim Cannon 2, were acquired by the Titans as organization property, leading to a monopoly over their production and eventual decline. The Titans would quickly adopt the Jim Custom as the base for their first mainstay machine, the Jim Quell, and also they initially deployed the Jim Cannon 2 in tandem with the Quell. The support machine quickly fell in disfavor, quickly disappearing from Titans' ranks. Fortunately, the Jim Cannon 2 would eventually gain favors again back at the start of the Grips War, where the AU and many affiliated anti-Titans resistance movements, such as Keranos, would start deploying it on their own, testament of the machine's efficiency. Among those Jim Cannons 2 stands notably the famed Jim Cannon 2 owned by Keranos leader Lucian Bent, which was personally modified to fit its pilot's needs. Painted in zebra camouflage colors to create optical illusions during high-speed combat and equipped with an upgraded head sensor piece, the Jim Cannon 2 Lucian Bent Custom was the emphasis of the guerrilla approach the under-equipped Keranos was forced to rely on to combat the Titans, equipping a modified scoped and silenced Jim rifle for long-range sniping alongside two arm-mounted Zaku Hithawks on its arm, a sort of gauntlet to protect the Jim Cannon 2 in close-range combat. This Jim Cannon 2 would quickly be modified around UC-87, removing the costly and near-useless zebra paint for more traditional colors, while incorporating a modification pack provided by Anaheim Electronics. This mod pack would mainly add new layers of bulky Gunderium armor to the Jim Cannon 2, thus providing better defensive abilities while replacing the shoulder beam cannons in favor of an open-barrel retractable megaparticle cannon placed on the right shoulder and coupled with a new precision sensor unit on the left shoulder. This new unit, dubbed Jim Cannon White Coral, would prove to be a difficult to pilot but nonetheless high-performing custom mobile suit, also hardly on par with transformable mobile suits that pullulated at the time the White Coral entered the battlefield, as shown by the Coral defeats against the Gapflemonin. Aside this White Coral, other Jim Cannon 2 would serve faithfully to Ayuk for the rest of the Grips War, and presumably even the First Neozian War, later remaining in the hands of pro-Ayuk factions that refused to merge back with the Federation forces, being in use by some of them as late as UC 115. But let's go back to the early UC 180s. After the conclusion of the 1-year war, some original vanilla Jim Cannons would end up surviving the war, with the Jaburo Defense Garrison seemingly still having some of those units that managed to survive. Those few units would eventually be kept as reserve mobile suits, but not before being slightly adjusted over the years to remain a bit more relevant with the new trends of mobile suits technology. These surviving Jim Cannons would notably receive the panoramic linear seat cockpit with the all-sky monitors, likely around UC-85, while adopting the new loadout of the Jim 2, most notably its beam rifle. Sadly, none of these adjustments would help these Jim Cannon refits to achieve anything worthy during their extended career, as seen in Zeta Gundam during the Second Battle of Jaburo, where they easily fell to the much more advanced and adequate suits fielded by the Ayuk. Still, despite the poor success of the Jim Cannon refit, the legacy of the Jim Cannon as a successful support mobile suit would still convince Federation engineers to try to expand its lineage, with one of such variants making its debut around UC-84, UC-85. Codenamed RMS 179, this new iteration of the Jim Cannon, referred as the Jim 2 mid-range support type, Jim 2 with cannon unit, and even as the Jim Cannon 3, is a surprising fellow, with its codename and nicknames alone being false leads. Indeed, far away from being a Jim 2 equipped with a cannon pack, the Jim Cannon 3 was actually a retrofitted Jim Kai, having internally been adjusted to match the performance of a Jim 2, alongside the ominous addition of a cannon pack, introducing a single barrel physical cannon and a pair of regular Isaac-styled 3-tubes missile launchers. This cannon pack, later expanded for the Isaac and Marasai cannon, was initially tested by the Titans test team on the Jim Kai high mobility type for its cannon configuration, with the Jim Cannon 3 being the end result of the research made on it and being approved alongside its cousin, the Jim Sniper 3. Now, although Advance of Zeta claims the Titans approved this suit for mass production, we don't know to which degree it eventually succeeded in doing so, being likely to have been ditched as soon as the Isaac cannon became a possibility. And with the Jim Cannon 3 ended the direct line of the Jim Cannon, although its development line would leave a significant impact on future mobile suit development. Most succeeding Jim lines would later repeat the trend of having their own cannon variant, as shown with the Jeda Cannon, Jagan Heavy Equipment Type, Jesta Cannon, Javelin Cannon, while also inspiring future high-performance mobile suits such as the infamous Hardigan of the Silhouette Formula project, or even the Volcano of the Dust era in some form. And with this video comes to an end. Marco and Code out.
But who will survive?